Hey, so I'm here with Leroy Smith, the Executive Director of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame out of Stillwater, Oklahoma. He's obviously blessed us with his presence here at the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Florida induction ceremony. He was a world silver medalist, he was an NCAA champ, and an Olympic coach. And he's got a couple of little brothers that are pretty good with Pat and John. And I get to meet him today, Leroy Smith. It's such a pleasure to get to meet you, and for Gary and the guys to invite me up here to do this. It's really cool. It's really an honor. It's nice to meet you, sir.
Well, it's great to come in. Nice to meet you too, and it's great. And thank you for your service to the sport that you're doing. It's very valuable behind the lens there. That work that you're doing, and we really appreciate it. And you taking the interest in wrestling and with your capabilities and skills that you execute. That's spoken like a coach, right? That didn't sound like a coach, former coach. But yes, I am the Executive Director of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, and one of the great privileges there could be in the sport of wrestling is to lead an organization like this. That our mission is to preserve history in the sport, is to inspire future generations and recognize excellence in the sport. Really, and that's what we're doing here this weekend with the Florida State Chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. We're recognizing another class of honorees that are going into the Hall of Fame as from the state of Florida. And we do this in about 35 states right now, and we're growing slowly, simply because some of our states are just catching on to wrestling. But one of the great things about wrestling right now is the advancement of women's wrestling in the United States, and where that's going is it's also going to help men's wrestling and boys wrestling as well. So that's something that we're very encouraged by and excited for, that opportunity to have women in wrestling and girls have an opportunity to learn and do what a sport that has been around, that is the oldest sport in the world. It was part of the ancient Olympic Games, and there's a reason why it's continued. It continues because it has an impact on society, and it is exciting to see these young women, girls, and get the opportunity to develop the skills and the values that they learn through wrestling that will carry on with them the rest of their lives. And I always say that there's a lot of leaders in our world who've wrestled. There really are, and we have a category that we recognize people for in the Hall of Fame called Outstanding Americans, and those are people who've wrestled maybe for a short time. It's not about their winning record. It's about the fact that they think that wrestling made a huge difference in their lives and allowed them to go on to success in other walks of life and in every sector. And it's unbelievable what we find there, the success we find there.
Yeah, and we see that a lot. And, to quickly touch on your women's comment, I had the honor to cover our Team Florida up at Fargo. I had never been before. On the girls' day, I walk in and there's 956 girls on 28 mats.
Yeah.
It's the biggest girls' tournament ever, and it was just a blessing to see. So just to touch on that, it was incredible. I know there's a lot going on this evening, and I know you've got places to go, but I really want to know, you come from a very historic wrestling family. How has wrestling impacted your life, your family's life?
Yeah, it started 55 years ago for me in 4th grade. I didn't know wrestling. I was invited on a playground to come out for the sport because of some friends in the neighborhood that were wrestlers, and were talking to the coach, and pointing to my family that that those guys are rough and tumble bunch of kids there in that family. There's some capability there, and of course seeing me on the playground and watching me a little bit, knew I had some athleticism, but I loved football. I loved those traditions. I was trying all different kinds of sports. My parents didn't know wrestling either. They didn't come from schools that had wrestling. And so they were basketball, football. My mother was even a softball and basketball player. My dad played football, basketball, and baseball. And went on to college to play basketball, if you could believe it.
That's crazy, because all three of the brothers still hold records to today, and just have been insane in wrestling, coming from parents that weren't even wrestlers themselves. That's incredible.
I always credit them, thank you. I always credit them with just establishing a foundation of values that we should apply in our lives. One was to work hard, and they when I got into the sport, they started telling me, suggesting all these, giving me these positive lessons that I needed to apply, which was to work hard, work smart, don't quit what you start. You go through the whole season, and don't blame coaches. You take responsibility. So I thought that's pretty extreme here that I'm hearing. You must really like this sport. And but they could tell it was probably a fit for me. I wasn't going to, I'm from a family of 10 children. I was going to have a difficult time going to college without a scholarship. And they wanted to see that happen in athletics, rightfully so. I wasn't going to do it in academics. And so, this was a match for me. And to make a long story short, I had my choice when I got to college to go anywhere I wanted to go. But my parents really grew me for college. They also, gave me the values and that live with me today, and live with all my brothers as well, and sisters. I have 6 sisters and 3 other brothers. We're from a family of 10. So I cannot begin to measure the impact that wrestling has had on our family and our lives. It's been so positive because there was just a passion there that we developed for it, and the values that come out of something that is a hard sport. Things that are hard is when you learn the most. And yes, there's going to be failure, but it's your ability to navigate failure. It's your ability to emotionally handle failure and go on and improve yourself. Maybe it's even remake yourself at times. But you learn that in wrestling, and you learn that, I'm sure, in other sports and in other walks of life too. But it's certainly been a great formula for us.
Yeah, obviously, and it's an absolute honor to get to meet you on this important weekend to so many, and it's been a pleasure. Thanks for taking some time with me. I look forward to having more conversations with you off camera this weekend. I'll be excited to chat and ask questions. I really appreciate it, Mr. Smith. Thanks so much for taking the time with me.
Thank you.